Welcome to my channel. This female bodice block is based on Mandy Barrington's version from her book entitled Stays and Corsets. The block features a prominent shoulder dart and is easily converted into fitted women's garments such as corsets and princess-lined bodices. Check out my Patreon in the description below for a written guide for this tutorial and options for private tutoring in CLO3D. Let's get started. Before we get started, we're going to need to collect several measurements that we will use in drafting this block. I am right now in edit measure mode, which is why I can see the measurements of my avatar, and I'm going to show you which measurements we need. There's also a list of these measurements in the description for this tutorial. So the first one is 1/4 of the bust measurement. So if I just click on the bust line there, that is my bust measurement, and I need to calculate 1/4 of that. Then I need the nape to waist measurement, which is this measurement back here. Then I need the neck measurement, which is right at the base of the neck, this one, that one right there. And we're going to get 1/5 of that measurement. Now the next one is across back, which is right here. We need 1/2 of this measurement. And then waist, which is our waistline down here. We need 1/4 of this measurement. Then the next measurement we need is the dart size, and I've included a standard list of dart sizes in the description, but I've also in the step-by-step guide in my Patreon, I have a chart on how to calculate that for any bust size. After that, the last measurement we need is the point-to-point measurement, which is this line right here. It's the short line from the point to point. So in this case, it's 6.4, which I will round to 6.5. Once you have your measurements, it's time to start drafting. So I'm going to go ahead and in my 2D window, I'm going to use the S hotkey for the rectangle tool, which is right here in the toolbar. And I'm going to just click anywhere in the 2D window. And the first pattern that I'm going to make is going to be the back. So I need the width to be 1/4 of the bust measurement plus 5 inches. So that's 8.5. And then for the height, I want it to be nape to waist plus 1 inch. So in my case, that is 16 inches. And then I'm going to go ahead and click OK. All right, now it's time to make a series of points along this side of the rectangle. I'm going to call these corners A, B, C, and D. And this first point will be point 1. I'm just going to click anywhere in the 2D window to deselect my rectangle, then go to the X hotkey for the Add Point Split Line tool. And I'm going to click near the top. I'm actually going to right click to pull up the split line window. And I'm going to choose the first line, line 1, to be 1 inch. And that will be the base of my neck, that point right there, or point 1. And we just want to make sure that that 1 inch is splitting near the top. And if it is, then we can go ahead and click OK. And now we're going to create the bust line. So to do that, I'm just going to still with the X hotkey or the split line tool, right click that line again. It doesn't actually matter where we click this time because we're going to just choose uniform split. And we want to make sure that the number of segments is 2. And then go ahead and click OK. All right, this is going to be the bust line, and this line is called point 2. And I just want to make sure that this line is actually going to be a little bit further down than halfway. So I'm going to just click, I'm using the Z tool. I'm going to click and drag this point down, then right click, and I'm going to type in distance moved. I want to make sure it moves 0 on the X axis, and then -0.5 on the Y axis. And then go ahead and click OK. Once that line is in place, we can create the next 2 points. So I'm going back to the X hotkey or the Add Point or Split Line tool. I'm right clicking now between point 1 and point 2, and I'm going to, just anywhere is fine because we're also going to do uniform split. Okay, and now that's point 3. Then between point 1 and point 3, I'm going to right click again and create point 4 by doing another uniform split. Now I just want to move point 4 up by 3/4 of an inch. So I'm going back to the Z hotkey or the edit pattern tool, and I'm just going to click that point, drag it up. I want to make sure it moves 0 on the X axis, and then 0.75 on the Y axis, and that is going to be our shoulder point. All right, we can start adding some baselines in here. So I'm going to go to the base polygon tool that is over here. There's no hotkey for it, so go ahead and just click that. And the first baseline we're going to add will be the width of the neckline. So I'm going to just click on this point 1, or the first point we created, and then I'm going to drag my cursor out so that I have the pink guideline, and then I'm just going to right click and say my 1/5 of my neck measurement, which for me is 2.8. With that, I'm going to go ahead and click OK. All right, so from there we want to create the height of this neckline. So I'm just going to click on this same point that I created again here on this baseline, and then using again that pink guideline to show that I'm squared, I'm just going to right click and then type in 0.5 inches, and that will be the height of my neckline. Now I'm going to go to let's see, this is point 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to go ahead and click on that point, drag it across, get that pink guideline, right click. This time we're going to type in the half of the cross back measurement that we calculated plus a ½ inch. So for me that's 6.75. Okay. And at the next point, right down here, we're going to go ahead and click, drag out, right click, and then we're going to just use the half cross back measurement. So that is 6.25. Okay. The last point here, we're just going to click on this point using the pink guideline. We're going to go ahead and just drag it all the way to the other side and double click to finish that line. All right, so we just created our neckline, our shoulder line, our cross back line, and our bust line, all for the back piece. I want to go ahead and go to the Z edit pattern tool, and I want to be able to right click this baseline that I created so that I can make it extend and add a point to this other side. But right now, by default, CLO has the baselines locked. To unlock those, go to the 2D pattern display, and then it's this last icon, just hover over it and click lock baseline. That will unlock them, which will then allow me to right click and then choose extend trim and add point to pattern outline. And now there's a point on this side and on this side. And that will allow me to change the length of my waistline, which is the bottom of the block here. So I can go ahead and with the edit pattern tool, right click that line, change length. This time I want to type in 1/4 of the waist measurement plus 1.25 inches. So for me, that is 7.25 inches. And I actually want it to take in on the other side because this is going to be my center back. So make sure that direction is at end and then click OK. All right, I just want to go ahead and give myself a reference point for my darts. I want that dart for the back to be in the middle of this line. So I'm going to go back to add point split line, right click this line right here, anywhere is fine, and then uniform split. Okay. And then the line right directly underneath it, our bust line, I'm just going to hover over and wait for the pink guidelines to show me that I'm perfectly lined up and go ahead and click there. And that will be our point for our back dart. Okay, this is all the guidelines we need on our back pattern piece. I want to, before we go forward, I want to go ahead and delete the lines that are interrupting this center back line. So to do that, I can either use the edit pattern tool and click on the lines individually or the points individually and just click delete. Or you can go back and lock your baselines and then you can hover over all of the points and then press delete, whichever you prefer to do. But at the end, just make sure that your baselines are unlocked again. Okay, now we can go ahead and copy this pattern as a symmetrical pattern and start working on the front. So I'm just using the transform pattern tool and I'm going to right click and choose symmetric pattern and just put this right over here. And then I want to right click and say remove linked editing because I want to be able to work on this pattern independently. And if I start moving things over here, I don't want to move them over here. And with that, we can go ahead and start adjusting all of these lines for the front. The first thing we want to do is move this neck point. I'm actually going to go to the edit pattern tool and I'm going to click this point right here and choose, I'm just going to drag it anywhere. It does not matter because I'm going to right click. And then in the distant move, I'm going to put on the X axis, we want to move it 0.25 inches. And on the Y axis, we want to move it 0.5 inches. And go ahead and click OK. And now that point should be sitting right on the top line here. The next line I want to move is actually going to be the base of the neck, which is this baseline right here. Just click that point and then drag it down. Distance moved 0 on the X axis, and then on the Y axis, we want to put negative 1/5 of the neck measurement. So for me, that was 2.8, and go ahead and click OK. And so that will be the base of the front of the neck. Now, I just want to adjust the waistline to accommodate a larger dart. So I'm going to click this point down here and just drag it out 0.5 inches. So that's negative 0.5 on the X-axis and 0 on the Y-axis. And then click OK. All right, that's it for our baselines. Now we can go ahead and start drawing some internal lines. The first line we're going to draw is our shoulder line. So I'm going to go to the internal line or polygon tool or the G hotkey now. And on the back, I'm going to click just on this point right here, which is our neck to shoulder intersection point. And then I'm going to click, actually double click at this first line down here, and that will be the slope of the shoulder line. On the front, I'm going to do the same thing. That same line is that we moved up. We're going to click there and then click on the same point down here. And now we have our shoulder lines, but we want to make sure that they are not only true, but that there is room in the front for the shoulder dart. So I'm just going to right click the shoulder line on the front and then choose change length. And this is going to require actually before we do that, we need to get just click the back to get the length. So this is 4.320. I need that number. And now I'm going to change the length. And then I want that number, that 4.320 plus the distance of my shoulder dart, which we calculated in the first step. All right, so for me, that is going to be 6.320 because my shoulder dart is 2 inches. And I'm going to go ahead and the direction, I want it to also be on end so that it extends this way. And once we have that, go ahead and click OK. Before we go any further, I just want to make sure that this point right here is in the right position for the front dart. So for that to be the case, we need to go ahead and go to the Edit Pattern tool, right click this line right here and make sure, change length. Make sure that is the half of the point to point measurement. So for me, that is 3.25. And again, I want to make sure that it's editing it at the end, and then go ahead and click OK. From here, we can go ahead and create the back neckline and the arm side lines. So going back to the G edit or the internal polygon / line tool, we can go ahead and click at the center back here and then connect those lines right there. And then click on the shoulder point and connect it down to the bust line down here. And then same on the front, going from the bust line to the shoulder line, and then the shoulder line to, oh, that wasn't it. The shoulder line to the base of the neck. Let's go ahead and add some points now for our darts. So we have the top of the dart on the front, which will be here, but we need to go ahead and add a point at the bottom. And to do that, I'm just going to the Add Point split line tool, and I'm just using that pink guideline to match it up down there. Same on the back. We want that point to be on the waistline, but we want it to be aligned with this point up here. And then for the shoulder, I'm going to go ahead and just right click the shoulder line and then choose Uniform Split. And that is where my dart will be on the shoulder. Click OK. All right, now in order to put these darts in, we're going to either have to cut this out or trace the pattern. I'm going to choose to trace the pattern, so using the I hotkey, or I'm going to the Trace tool, and I'm just going to Shift click all of these internal lines and the outer lines that will create this shape right here. I'm going to go ahead and do that on both sides, right there and there. Don't worry about the baselines. We actually won't need them anymore. So go ahead and then with right click the selection and say trace as pattern, and then you can choose anywhere in the 3D window to place these patterns. And while we're here, we can go ahead and go to the A or the transform pattern tool or the Q select move tool, and then shift click both of these patterns that we were just working off of, right click, and then deactivate pattern and sewing, and you can go ahead and shift Q to hide them as well. Okay, now we're ready to add our darts. In the back, I'm just going to go to the edit pattern tool or the Z hotkey, and I'm going to right click our dart point and choose add dart. And now the total width of the dart on any size is going to be 0.75. And don't worry about the length right now because we're going to drag it later. So just whatever is fine. We can go ahead and leave shape dart cap selected and press OK. And then this option will come up and just press enter to shape that dart cap. And now we can go ahead and right click on the front, add dart. And this dart is going to be 1.25 inches for all patterns. Again, just leave the length what it is, shape dart cap is fine, and press OK, and then enter to shape the dart cap. Now the shoulder dart, we're going to right click this point right here on the front, add dart, and this width is going to be the width of that dart that we added in when we lengthened that shoulder line. So for me, that was 2 inches. And the length we're going to leave as it is, but we want to make sure we don't shape the dart to cap yet. So I'm going to uncheck shape dart to cap and then press OK. And now that we have all of these darts, we can go ahead and drag their points to line up with their corresponding points in the pattern. So the back, I'm going to drag and just line it up right onto this point right there, and then he's done. For the front, I'm going to drag this point actually to the reference point on the bust line, but then I want to back it off by 2 inches. So I'm just going to click and then hold shift and drag this point down. It wants to follow either one of those lines, but I want to drag it straight down 2 inches, which means while I was dragging it, I'm going to right click and press 2, and then that will be perfect. Now the shoulder dart, I'm going to do something similar. I'm going to drag it to this point right here, and then I want to actually drag it down 1 inch beyond that point. So dragging it down, making sure I have that pink guideline, right clicking, and then typing in 1, and then go ahead and press OK. Now that that dart is in place, I can go ahead and right click the shoulder dart and choose shape dart cap, and then press enter, and then that will true my dart. All right, before we go any further, I recommend you balance out the waistline by just selecting all of these points right here, clicking and then dragging, holding shift directly towards the back, right clicking, and then typing in 0.5 inches, and that will just move the side seam a ½ inch towards the back, which will create a more balanced bodice. All right, and with that, we can go ahead and still with the edit pattern tool, right click, this is our center front line, go ahead and right click that and choose unfold symmetric editing with sewing, and that will unfold that line, and then do the same on the back, right click, unfold symmetric editing with sewing. And now we can go ahead and put our curves in with the C tool or the edit curvature tool, which is right here. Just going to go ahead and drag down my neckline, trying to make sure I don't get a peak in there. I don't really want a V-neck in the back. If that does happen, you can go to the edit pattern tool, and the Bezier handles will appear, and you can just make those parallel. That's good. All right, and now the back, we can go ahead and start putting this curve in, and I do try to match that up with the back curve. With the front, you're welcome to put in a reference line for the front, but I'm going to I would just wait and measure my arm side and use that to make that curve. I can also check it once it's sewn. And then we want to curve the front neckline right there, and again, I just want to check those Bezier handles, make sure they're parallel so that I don't have a peak or a V-neck. All right, that's our block. We can go ahead and I'm going to just use Shift F to show my points. Go to the Q tool in the 3D window and just place my patterns in place. And I want to go ahead and sew my side seams using the segment sewing tool or the N hotkey. And then for the shoulder seams, I'm going to need to use the MN free sewing tool because I need to connect here to here, press enter, and then do the same on this side and press enter. And then those are sewn together, just checking my sewing in the 3D window. Go ahead and press simulate. And there we go. That is our basic bodice block a la Mandy Barrington in her book, Stays and Corsets. If this was tricky to follow for you, I don't blame you. It's a lot easier to follow on paper. And if you would like that step-by-step guide, it's available on my Patreon. Thanks for watching.